Breach protocol. She was his mission. It became her reason to live. Asterisk explosions lit up the sky over Argillian's fractured surface. The shattered moon trembled with each blast as plasma fire streaked across the night like electric rain. Commander. Jox Marak ran low, weapon gripped tight, leading his squad through what used to be a mining colony but now looked like hell itself. His boots crunched across glass and bone. The mission was clear. Clear the last viral and hold out. Take the data. Core, get out. But then he saw her. Across a broken catwalk, framed by the flickering light of fire and emergency strobes, stood an alien female in Virulon command armor tall, slender skin glowing faintly blue under the haze. Eyes like molten gold. She wasn't armed. She wasn't running. She just stood there, watching him. Jox froze. He had killed Virulons before, coldly, quickly. But something about her made his breath catch. She looked like a soldier. No, more than that. A leader. But not afraid. Not today. Then it happened. The sharp whine of a plasma sniper echoed. Reflex kicked in. Jox turned. Too late. He saw the glint, the beam, the death that was meant for him. But it never hit. She moved first. The alien woman threw herself forward, across the gap. The bolt slammed into her side with a sound like glass breaking underwater. Her body arched, light flaring across her skin as she collapsed onto the catwalk in front of him. Jack stared, stunned. His breath stuck in his throat. She had saved him? Why? Smoke curled from her armor as she gasped for breath, the wound glowing bright and dangerous. She was bleeding, but not like humans. The liquid shimmered violet, pooling under her where she had landed. Her eyes blinked open, barely. He dropped to one knee beside her, his pulse thundering. Why? He muttered, his voice raw. Her lips moved, a whisper, almost nothing. You look tired of killing. Then her head tilted, eyes fluttering closed. Jox grabbed her, lifted her into his arms like she weighed nothing. Her body was cooler than his, her skin smooth and strange. But there was something familiar about the way she fit against him. Fragile. Alive. Blaster. Fire still roared in the distance. His squad was calling over comms, asking for orders. He didn't answer. He just looked down at the alien in his arms, this enemy who had shielded him without hesitation. Don't you dare die on me, he growled, his voice thick with something he didn't want to name. Alien or not, you don't get to save me and then just leave. She didn't respond. Around them, Argillian burned. Sirens wailed. Debris fell from the sky like rain. And in the middle of all that chaos, a human soldier ran toward the evac point, carrying the one person who was never supposed to matter. But she did now, and Jox Marek wasn't letting her go. Asterisk. Smoke curled from the wreckage as Jox Marek burst. Through the broken remains of what used to be a cum station, the shattered moon Argillian still shook beneath his boots, distant impacts rumbling like thunder through stone. He held the alien tightly in his arms, her blood violet, slick, faintly glowing, staining his chest plate. The evac dropship wasn't coming. He'd missed the window. His squad was gone, forced to retreat when enemy fire took out the southern. Ridgie could have called for backup, could have left her. He didn't. Instead, Jox pushed through fallen beams and emergency shutters. One step at a time, his muscles burning, but his grip never loosening. He'd found a medical outpost during Redcon days ago. Abandoned. Off-grid. Perfect. Behind a twisted bulkhead door, he kicked open the entrance. It hissed with old pressure valves. The lights flickered on barely enough to see. Dust swirled in the stale air. He set her down gently on the table. She stirred, barely, lips parting in a weak breath. Still with me? He asked, voice low. Rough. She blinked once. Her gaze was unfocused. Her body trembled. Name? He asked. She didn't answer. Fine, he muttered, pulling off his gloves. I'll just call you stubborn, alien lunatic for now. Her lips curved just a little, a ghost of a smile. Then she winced, breath catching as pain lanced through her side. Jox quickly cut away the armor plate over the wound. The smell hit him, burned flesh and energy discharge. Damn it, he growled. That sniper wasn't using standard plasma. This is destabilizing. He worked fast, pulling out old supplies from cabinets, setting auto sutures and pain dampeners. He wasn't a medic, he was a soldier. But in this moment, he had to be more. She watched him through half-lidded eyes. You, don't kill me? She whispered, voice barely audible, accent strange and soft. He stopped, met her gaze. You saved me. That kind of screws up the whole shoot-on-sight policy. Her eyes searched his face. I broke protocol. Yeah, well, so did I. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Jox cleaned the wound. Her skin shimmered when he touched her like it was reacting to him. It felt like silk over cold steel, smooth and alive. Her breath hitched, not from pain, but from the contact. It did something to him, too, made his heart thump harder in his chest. Your biology's weird, he muttered. Yours is loud, she murmured. Hot. Yeah, human problem. Get used to it. She blinked slowly, watching him as he worked. You smell like iron and oil. But there's something under it. Familiar. Jox didn't answer. Didn't have one. When he finished closing the wound, he eased back. She lay still, breathing shallow but steady. You should rest, he said. I'll keep watch. But he turned to grab his rifle. Her hand reached out and caught his wrist. Her grip was light, but deliberate. You didn't have to save me, he turned to look at her. Her golden eyes locked onto his. You didn't have to take a plasma bolt. For me either, he said. So I guess we're both idiots, she laughed. Soft, short, but real. Then her body sagged, exhausted. He sat near her, watching the old med scanner pulse with her vital signs. The storm outside was still raging, but inside that dusty little room, it was strangely quiet. Safe, almost. Jox stared at her face. Not human, not even close. Her bone structure was sharper, her hair like threads of starlight, her markings faintly glowing under her skin. Beautiful, but in a way he couldn't explain. Alien, but familiar in the places that mattered. Who was she? Had she saved him? And why the hell did he care so much? A crackle from his comlink broke the silence. HQ, static, then a voice. Commander Marek, you are considered Mia. Do you read? Do you not engage with hostile bioforms? Return immediately for debrief. He didn't answer. He looked down at her. Again, her chest rose and fell gently. She was alive. Because of him. Or maybe because they both made one impossible choice. Outside, Virgilian kept burning. Inside, something else had started to smolder, and Jox Marek wasn't sure if he wanted to put it out. Asterisk, the med station had no windows, no clocks, just the soft pulsing of outdated biomonitors and the occasional flicker of failing lights. Time moved strangely in there, stretching thin, unraveling. Jox Marek hadn't slept. Not really. He dozed off once, sitting in a rusted chair with his rifle across his lap, but every time the alien woman on the table shifted or made a sound, his eyes snapped open. Not from fear, from something else. Curiosity. Obsession. She was stable now. The burn across her ribs had sealed with the help of a makeshift Regan gel he barely knew how to apply, and her breathing had leveled out. But she hadn't spoken again, not since she grabbed his wrist and said what no enemy should have said. You didn't have to save me. Those words had nested in his skull and refused to leave now. She stirred, slow, careful. Her body rose like smoke from the table, as if she was learning gravity again. Her eyes blinked open, glowing faint amber in the dim light. Jox stood instantly. Rifle in hand, instinct, training. She didn't flinch, just looked at him. You're still here, she said. Her voice was stronger now. He nodded, lowering the weapon. So are you. She slid her legs off the table and tried to stand. Wobbled, collapsed halfway onto a wall. Jox moved toward her, hand out, but she held up hers, palm glowing faintly. No, let me. He paused, watched her breathe through the pain, steady herself, take 2 slow steps. She was proud, controlled, dangerous. But then she looked at him and smiled. It wasn't the kind of smile that came easy. It was the kind that had to be. Rebuilt from the wreckage of war and loss. I've never felt a human's heat before, she said softly. Your bodies ... radiate. Loud, heavy. He blinked. You saying I'm sweaty? She tilted her head. No, I'm saying I feel you before you even speak. Jox chuckled. Yeah, well, we humans don't do subtle very well. Guess that's why we're always blowing stuff up. She didn't laugh, but her smile deepened. He watched her more closely now. Her skin was healing fast for anything earthborn. Beneath her exposed collarbone, bioluminescent veins shimmered faintly under her translucent skin. Her kind weren't made to be soldiers. They were ... something else, something graceful. What are you? He asked without thinking. She looked away. A mistake, according to both our sides. Jox frowned. Didn't look like a mistake when you took a sniper bolt to the gut. Silence settled. Heavy. Then she turned back to him. Her eyes shone with something more than light, something haunted. My name is Lorenus. I was part of the Verilyn Corps, trained for empathy commandment to read battlefields by sensing emotion, not blood. But they gave me a weapon anyway, told me to use it or be replaced. Jox exhaled slowly. And you didn't want to? Did once, she said. Until I felt what it meant to kill someone who didn't want to die. I ran. They hunted me, saw me just before they did. That changed something in his head. She wasn't just some alien officer. She was a defector, a target, and she was glowing again faintly. The lines along her arms lit up when she looked at him. What does that mean? He asked, gesturing toward the glow. Her lips parted, but she hesitated. It happens when I'm overstimulated. Jox raised a brow. You saying I'm exciting? She stepped closer, a single brow arched. Too loud, too big, too ... human. He laughed, low and real. You're not the first to say that. But her eyes didn't leave his. She stepped closer, still close enough he could see the tiny particles of light under her skin react to his body heat. Your presence feels like thunder, she whispered, scary, but impossible to ignore. Jox didn't move. He didn't dare. Her fingers brushed his arm. Just a grazed butt. It burned through his jacket. Her skin was cool. His was warm. It's opposites in every way, but still magnetic. He looked down at her hand. That's some alien way of saying you like me? But when I touch you, I remember what it's like to feel ... safe. That hit harder than he expected. He lifted his hand slowly, touched her jawline. Her breath caught, but she didn't pull away. Their eyes locked. No orders, no battlefield. Out. Just 2 people caught in something neither of them had been trained for. I shouldn't want this, she said. We're still at war, yet Jox murmured. But for the first time, what? And neither of them moved, because the world outside could burn. But in that room, in that moment, a human and an alien had found something worth risking everything for, and neither of them was ready to let it go. The emergency lights sputtered. As the generator struggled to keep up, every few minutes, the station would groan deep, mechanical, like something alive and wounded under the surface. The reactor was holding, but barely. The whole place felt like a heartbeat away from collapse. JAX. Marek sat on the floor, back against the wall, boots stretched out, rifle resting across his knees. He wasn't looking at the door. He was watching her. Lorena sat across the room, legs folded underneath her on a half-broken med bed. A scavenged blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The light caught her face just right, those alien eyes, glowing amber in the dark like dying stars. She was healing fast. Too fast. What's the deal with that, anyway? He asked, voice low in the silence. Your body, it patches itself like a machine. She glanced up. My species was genetically designed for high adaptability. evolution accelerated by intentional edits. Rapid cell regeneration was considered attractive. Jocks huffed. Wish someone had edited humans like that. One bullet in the gut and we're down for the count. You're resilient in other ways, she said, her gaze softening. Emotionally, you burn hotter, but you last longer. He didn't know how to respond to that. She tilted her head, studying him like he was some strange artifact she couldn't quite understand. Your mind, it's loud, but not chaotic. You feel everything deeply, even when you try to hide it. Reading my mind now? No, just your presence. It presses against me. Her voice was soft, vulnerable. It's not unpleasant. It's just overwhelming. He gave a crooked smile. Yeah, people say that about me a lot. She smiled faintly. Then, do all humans touch like that? The way you did earlier? Jocks felt heat rise to his ears. What way? Carefully. Her voice didn't waver. It's like you thought I might disappear if you were too rough. No one's ever touched me like that. Not even my own kind. Jocks looked away, unsure what to say. His fingers tightened around the rifle. She stood slowly, crossed the small room in bare feet, each step deliberate. The glow in her skin dimmed. As she neared him, her body adapting to his proximity, temperature, rhythm, pulse. He didn't move when she sat down beside him. She didn't say a word when she leaned against his shoulder, her head resting lightly there like it had always belonged. The room was silent, but the air between them buzzed with tension, not danger, not fear. Something else. He glanced sideways. You sure? Yes? She whispered. I want to feel something that's real. For once, he let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Slowly, carefully, he reached over and pulled the blanket around both of them. Her body was cooler than his, but she didn't pull away. Her fingers found his hand and stayed there. No orders, no mission, no war, just warmth in a frozen world. Then dash static, his comlink buzzed to life. Eco 7 report. Movement on your quadrant. Possible virulent trackers inbound. Advise immediate extraction or shelter. Lyra stiffened against him. Jocks muted the feed. We need to move, she said, already standing. Where? He asked. Back into the line of fire? No. She replied, There's an old mining lift 2 levels down. Leads to the maintenance tunnel system. If we drop power and go cold, they'll lose our signal. He stood too, grabbed his gear. How do you know that? She looked over her shoulder. Because I helped design this station before it became a battlefield. Of course she did. They moved fast, quiet. Her bare feet barely made a sound. Jocks covered her from behind, scanning every hallway for motion, weapons hot. The station flickered, lights dying one by one as the system overloaded. Darkness swallowed them. They reached the old lift, a rusted cargo platform half-eaten by corrosion. She keyed in a bypass code, fingers dancing across cracked metal panels. The lift groaned to life. Inside, it was pitch black. Only the soft hum of descent, only the sound of her breathing, close now. I'm sorry, she said suddenly. For what? For dragging you into this? I didn't mean to. I didn't even know you. You jumped in front of a plasma bolt to save my life, Jocks replied. That counts for something. I didn't do it for the mission, she said. I did it because I looked at you, and you weren't like the others. The lift stopped. He stepped out into silence pipes, steam vents, flickering power lines. The guts of the moon station. Hidden, forgotten, he found a storage alcove, and pried open the door. Inside was nothing but darkness and dust, but it was a place to hide, to breathe. They slipped inside, sat close on the floor. Her hands shook slightly, the adrenaline crashing. Loved slow circles. Across the back of her knuckles. I've touched humans before, she whispered for interrogation. 4 pressure points. But this is different. He looked at her. Why? Because this time, I want to. Their eyes met. She leaned in, not fast, not desperate, just steady, sure. And this time, when her lips touched his, it wasn't survival. It wasn't rebellion. It was choice. and he kissed her back in the dark, in hiding, while the galaxy hunted them, because for one impossible moment, they were just a man and a woman, no sides. No ranks, just one truth. They weren't running anymore, they were choosing asterisk. The hidden chamber deep beneath Argilian's surface was quiet. Only the slow drip of condensation from overhead pipes broke the silence. Yoxmarek lay on his back, staring at the curved metal ceiling, his arms stretched out under Lirani's head. She was curled beside him beneath the shared thermal blanket, her skin faintly luminous in the dark. The makeshift shelter was cold, damp, and barely large enough for two, but it felt still. For the first time in weeks, her fingers traced slow, absent-minded shapes across his chest, over the worn fabric of his shirt. "You're quiet," she said softly. "I'm thinking," he replied. "About what?" He paused. "About what the hell just happened between us." She turned her head toward him, cheek brushing against his arm. "I connected with you." He laughed under his breath. "That's one word for it." "No," she said, gently but firmly. "Not just that. My kind. When we bond, it's not casual. It's not just bodies. Our nervous systems adapt to emotional frequency. The more we trust, the more we sync." Jox blinked. "Are you saying you imprinted on me?" "It's not imprinting," she replied. "It's deeper than that. I gave you access to my neural resonance. I felt your fear, your guilt, your gentleness." He turned his head slowly to meet her gaze. Her golden eyes glowed in the dark, unreadable and beautiful. "You read my emotions." She nodded. "Not thoughts, not memories, just feelings. But when we kissed, you weren't afraid. Not of me." "I never was," he said. "I was," she admitted. "Of you, of what I'd feel. But you didn't hurt." "Grab you waited," he swallowed. "Yeah, well, oh, you're not exactly standard issue." She smiled faintly, then grew quiet. "Asterisk, I have to show you something," she whispered. JX sat up slightly. "What kind of something?" "Something my kind only shares with a partner they trust." "Lyra, if this is some kind of ancient alien mating ritual," I swear. She reached out and gently touched the center of his chest. Not over his heart, just slightly to the right. Her fingers glowed faintly where they met his skin, and then he felt it. A rush, not pain, not force, just connection. His breath caught as a warm wave moved through him. Not heat, emotion. It was like someone opened a doorway inside his own chest and let something impossible pass through. Suddenly, he could feel her, not her thoughts, but her presence. Her fear buried deep. Her loneliness. Her fierce need to belong, to be safe, to be more than a weapon. And beneath all that, her trust in him. It was overwhelming. Asterisk, and then just like that, it was gone. She pulled her hand back, and the glow faded. He stared at her, chest rising and falling fast. "What the hell was that?" She looked down, almost shy for the first time. "It's called the embrace. It's rare, intimate, a shared resonance. It's how Virulon pairs choose each other." He was silent for a moment, then he nodded slowly. "So, you chose me?" "Yes. Even knowing I'm a human. From a race you were taught to fear." "Yes," she said again, firmer this time. "Because you didn't treat me like a mission. You treated me like a person." He reached up and brushed a strand of silver blonde hair from her face. "You're not just a person," he said. "You're the most remarkable being I've ever met." She closed her eyes at that, just for a moment. When she opened them again, they were wet. "I don't cry easily," she whispered. Her tear ducts are vestigial. "I could." "Then don't fight it," he said, pulling her close. "You've earned that much." They stayed like that, wrapped together, warmth shared between their mismatched bodies. Hers cool and glowing, his hot and solid. Two opposites, pressed into something whole. Then the silence was broken by a soft chime from Jox's wrist console. He swore under his breath. "They're scanning the tunnels again. We've got maybe half an hour before the drones sweep this level." She pulled away slightly. We can make it. There's an escape shaft 3 corridors down. It leads to a maintenance rail. If we can reach it, we can drop power and coast out of sensor range. You sure? He asked. She nodded. I memorized every inch of this place when I helped build it. I know the blind spots. Grabbed his rifle and pack, then turned to her. Then let's go, Lieutenant Lorenus. She gave him a dry look. You know I outranked you, right? He smirked. Not in my bed, you didn't. She elbowed him lightly as they slipped out into the corridor, rifles up, backs to the wall. But the smile lingered. They weren't just running anymore. They were moving forward, together as partners, as something neither war nor species could define. And every step echoed with a promise. This wasn't just survival. This was becoming. Asterisk rain hammered the rooftop of the docking tower on Station C9, forgotten refueling post orbiting the edge of the Delveran expanse. Wind screamed through broken hull panels like the voices of ghosts, and beneath it all under the cover of night and static, Jacques Marek was breaking every rule in the book again. The stolen Varellan medical logs flickered across his datapad. Gene scan overlays, erased records, redacted orders, all leading to one conclusion. They didn't want Lorenus to exist. Her entire identity, her clearance level, her training, even her empathic designation had been officially downgraded. Reclassified as non-essential personnel. In other words, legal to dispose of. Bastards, he growled under his breath, fingers flying across the slate copying files. You didn't just erase her, you tried to make it like she was never born. Behind him, Lorenus stood near the edge of the rooftop, the dark cloak he'd given her flapping in the wind. Her luminous skin had dimmed, adapted to stay hidden from Varellan's scans. But he could still see her, always could. She wasn't trembling, she wasn't afraid. She was waiting for him. He finished the upload, pulled the slate close and walked toward her. The wind kicked harder, the rain soaking through his shirt. You ready? He asked. She nodded. The ship. He pointed to the far end of the landing bay where a half-rusted freighter crouched low like an old war dog too tired to bark. S-74. Short-range hauler, minimal AI, clean registry. Our ticket out? No military escort? She asked. He shook. His head were not soldiers anymore, just 2 passengers leaving quietly. She turned to him then, really looked at him. Her eyes still held that fire, but softer now, controlled. Not because she was hiding it, but because she was choosing. Who to burn for? Why are you doing this? She asked, almost gently. Why risk everything? Your rank, your record, your life? Jacques met her gaze without flinching. I don't want to survive another war, where I didn't save the person who mattered. She stared for a long moment, then stepped closer, her voice quiet but firm. Then let's stop surviving. Together, they made their way across the landing pad, ducking behind crates, moving through rain and fog like ghosts. The scanner net buzzed once, then flickered out. Lyra's fingers danced across a terminal, her biosignature overriding the Varellan firewall like it had never been broken. Still got it, Jacques muttered, impressed. She smirked. You didn't think I was just a pretty face, did you? He blinked. No, but I definitely underestimated the hacking skills. The freighter's loading ramp creaked open with a groan. Inside, dim lights, 2 cots, a nav terminal, and a DAV. Fusion reactor held together by hope and duct tape, but to them, looked like freedom. They took off in silence. The ship shuddered once, then leaped into sublight space, like it had been waiting its whole life to run. Jack sank into the pilot's seat. Eyes on the monitor, no pings, no trackers. They were dark, off-dash grid beside him. Lyra watched the stars stretch across the black like silk threads being pulled tight. He reached over, placed his hand gently on hers. I meant what I said, he told her. I'm not going back. I'd rather be nobody out here with you than a decorated corpse back there without you. She nodded slowly, lips parting, and we make a life. Not borrowed, not hidden. Ours. They set a course for a rimworld settlement, Tesser Hollow. terraformed outpost that didn't ask questions and didn't log visitors unless you wanted them to. When they landed 2 days later, they stepped into a world of misty forests and bioluminescent moss under twin moons. The air was warm. The silence kind Jax bartered a spare plasma cartridge for shelter. A domed hut near the edge of the settlement with a working heat core and no cameras. They moved in that night. No speeches. No titles. Just hands unpacking old gear, boots left by the door, her cloak hanging beside his jacket. Later, Jock sat on the edge of the narrow bed, shirt half unbuttoned, staring at nothing. She approached from behind, arms sliding around his waist, her cheek pressed to his back. I never knew what it meant to feel safe, she murmured, even in my own skin. You're safe now, he said quietly, and you don't owe me anything. I know, she said, but I still want to give you everything. He turned then, slowly, his hands coming up to rest on her waist. She was glowing again, faint, like embers under the skin. Her markings pulsed softly under his touch, not because she was adapting, because she was choosing. They kissed again, deeper this time. It's not desperate, not hidden. It was warm, human. Real. Their bodies moved together, not like soldiers escaping the past, but like lovers building something new. She didn't flinch when he traced her scars. He didn't pull away when she showed him where the plasma bolt had nearly ended her. They slept like that, arms tangled, breath shared, dreams unspoken but understood. The next morning, Lyra stepped outside barefoot, feeling the alien soil beneath her feet. Sunlight painted her skin gold. She looked back at him through the open door, and for the first time in her life, she smiled without armor, and he smiled back, because whatever they'd been, enemies, fugitives, freak accidents of war, they were something more now. They were free, and for the first time in either of their lives, that was enough. Casar Hollow was quiet that morning. A light breeze stirred the ferns that grew waist-high in the red soil, and the mist lifted slowly off the treetops like steam rising from the surface of an old-world exhaling peace. Birds engineered hybrids with bioluminescent plumage flitted through the air, chirping in strange, beautiful tones. Jax Merrick stood barefoot in the garden behind their home. A rough-built dome made of repurposed colony parts and overgrown moss. He was shirtless, scarred, muscles tense from digging a new irrigation trench. His hands were dirty, but his mind was calm. Because inside that dome, laughter rang out. Lorenus was humming again, that low melodic tone that made the walls feel warmer, the air softer. She wasn't singing in any language he knew. It wasn't words. It was resonance, one of the things her people had stopped doing during the war. One of the things she'd reclaimed, and now she did it every morning. Not because it was tradition, but because their daughter loved the sound. Jock smiled. Vera. 3 years old, hybrid born. Had his eyes and her mother's skin, silver blue with faint glimmers like starlight under the surface. She was small, curious, and already smarter than either of them. She could sense emotion before it was spoken, and her laugh could stop arguments before they started. She was what came after war. She was why it had all been worth it. Inside, Lyra sat cross-legged on the floor, holding Vera in her lap. The child's hands were covered in sticky fruit paste from the colony's first citrus harvest, and she was babbling happily in a mix of human speech and virulent hums. Lyra kissed her hair, and for a moment her eyes closed like she was afraid the moment might vanish. Jax watched from the doorway, arms crossed. Did she win the fight with the breakfast bowl again? He asked. She declared peace after total surrender, Lyra said, grinning. But I think the fruit put up a good fight. Vera wiggled in her lap, then spotted her father and squealed. Papa. She launched herself across the room like a missile, caught her, lifting her into the air, laughing as she clung to his neck. Her skin shimmered faintly at his touch. She's glowing again, he said. She always does when she's around you, Lyra murmured. Just like I did. He looked at her, smile softening. Still do, if you ask me. She stood and walked to him, her hips swaying just enough to make him lose focus for a second. Even now, after everything, especially Nell, she still caught him off guard. 3 years, she said. Do you believe it? He nodded. Every single second. They stepped outside together, watching Vera dart through the moss like a comet. The world around them buzzed with life. New life, real life. The war was a memory now, whispered about in border colonies, retold in survivor bars, and government lies. Jocks, Marek, and Larinis were officially listed as KIA killed in a joint orbital bombardment during the last year of the campaign. No. One had looked too hard to confirm it. No one had wanted to. And that suited them just fine. He reached down, took her hand, intertwining their fingers. Her skin pulsed faintly, as if responding to his heartbeat. After all this time, they still resonated. Do you miss it? She asked, barely above a whisper. The soldier's life? No, he said, I miss a few people, but not the orders, not the waiting for permission to be human. She leaned against him. I never thought I'd be allowed to be anything but a tool, a classified asset. You were never a tool, he said, you were just trapped, like I was, and now. He glanced down at her, brushing a silver strand of hair from her temple. Now you're free. We both are. And he nodded toward Vera, now trying to hug a giant pollinating beetle. She's proof of that. Lyra smiled, not a small smile, not a polite one, a real one, big, bold, reckless. It made him want to kiss her right there in the middle of the moss. So he did. A soft, quiet kiss, not desperate, not lustful, just full of everything they never got to say during the war. A language of lips and breath, of past scars and present warmth. When they broke apart, she whispered, You gave me more than survival, Jocks. You gave me something. I didn't even know I wanted, he replied. A life. She blinked back tears, real ones. Not just emotional resonance, just the simple, human act of letting go. Then Vera ran back to them, hands full of glowing berries, eyes wild with wonder. Look. Mama, Papa, I made breakfast, he laughed, because even if the galaxy out there kept burning, they had built something stronger than empires, stronger than military protocols or old hatreds. They had built a home. And in that moment, under twin suns and tangled roots, it was enough. Maybe someday, their story would reach others. Maybe. Some soldier on another world would hear whispers of a human and a virulin, who loved each other enough to walk away from everything. But even if no one ever told it, even if it lived and died in the soil beneath their feet, it would still be the greatest story either of them had ever lived. And every morning that began with fruit-stained hands and alien birdsong, every evening that ended with her head on his chest, their daughter snoring beside them in a bundle of blankets, it would still whisper the same truth. She was once a weapon. He was once a soldier. Now they were a family. And that was more than victory. That was peace. Asterisk.